Good evening and welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes. 5 topics, 8 minutes, 2 hosts, a guest, some singing, a lot of curse words, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB, how are you?
Well, I'm already into my cocktail, and tonight it's a cocktail.
Oh dear.
I almost never have it. I usually have a mocktail. Tonight,
I think that perhaps the events of the week necessitated
I feel
such matters.
I
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yes, so I'm having are you having your Manhattan?
I am
Your
having my
blue book?
Manhattan.
Okay. I'm going to call it a North Country Mule
Okay.
because we drink a lot of diet ginger ale up here. I don't know why, but we do. And I know it's terrible for me. I understand. Yes, but this is what I drink. I love it. I love Fresca and diet ginger ale. And so I just poured a bunch of vodka in it. Made it simple. Made it simple.
We're not messing around.
I'm not messing around anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah. What do you got for me at the top of the show? Anything? Anything?
Well, I want to say I wasn't sure what the title of the episode was going to be, and I was like tired yesterday, so I put The Ballad of Boris and Bob with 2 B's, well, 3 B's,
3
because I figured
Get 3
we'll
holes.
be talking about, the Arizona indictments, and it's interesting because there's like you have to cross-reference the indictments, and there's people that got indicted in Arizona but not in Georgia, but got indicted in Georgia and not in Arizona.
Yeah,
And
the
it's
locals.
interesting to see. Besides the locals, I'm talking about the, Chesbro not indicted in Arizona, probably because Chesbro cooperating, which is what they said like months ago, if I remember correctly.
Maybe he cut a deal.
And then the 2 new people, the 2 new indictees, are Boris Epstein, who knew Eric Trump when they went to Georgetown together, embarrassingly enough for my alma mater, and then Christina Bobb, who was in the Willard, works for OA, one of those networks, and is one of these Mike Flynn, associates. So I don't know. We're going to see how this plays out. I think it's just how many more jurisdictions can we grand juries meet to do the indictments and decide on? Like,
where do they did also pulled all this. Where else did they have fake electors? I'm trying to.
There's another place. That's just it. There's so many places we've forgotten.
I can't remember.
Like, how can a MAGA, if you're a MAGA now,
crime
how can you be like, well, it's a deep state? How is it? It's a deep state, really? You got all these people, normal people, in a grand jury that's all deep state. Maybe
let's get into it.
Maybe they're just criminals. I don't know. Maybe they're just criminals. So I apologize for the title of the episode, because we're not even going to talk about that. Really.
I know we don't. I don't think we have time. I think we just did. This is as much as we have to talk about it. We'll get to it later at some point in the year.
Right. So, okay, the first topic for tonight.
Yeah.
I just did very kind of, whatever titles for tonight. Immune deficiency.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
So what does that mean, LB? What do you have to tell us about immunity?
Well, we were talking earlier today, and I kind of landed on this. I just kind of want to pull back from this because there's been, there was all this shock, from the legal punditry on all the socials and also on the, in the cable news of like, like they were still holding on to some nostalgic dream about what the Supreme Court did, or, well, yes, they're horrible people and they're extremists and they're radical, belief set. But as soon as you put that robe on, something, magic pixie, legal fairy dust sprinkles on them, and all of a sudden they have integrity. And because the court is so prestigious, like all this garbage and mythology and fantasy that very learned, educated, and very well paid to give their opinion people still have. And I think they were genuine in their belief that the court somehow just had a way of forming people instead of really grasping. And now I believe everyone's grasped it, that we have individuals in there, a majority on the court, who are about shaping the law to them. they're not the court, the bench didn't shape them at all. It didn't put them into some kind of form to where all of a sudden we can have faith. There is a majority now. They're extremists. I mean, these are extremists, right? They're hearkening back, trying to find laws from pre-Civil War so they can control a woman's body with let a legislator do that on a state level instead of a doctor. They're what they are. So going back, what they've been doing, what Sheldon Whitehouse has been exposing specifically, and why he's calling for all this ethics reforms or just ethics to begin
Just ethics at all. Yeah.
all.
Yeah. Just some, maybe.
There's this sort of scheme, right, that has been happening under Leonard Leo's tutelage, which actually goes back to Mitch McConnell. I think everybody gives Mitch McConnell, they're forgetting about him, but Leo's his guy. That's his dude, right? This was his whole goal, was to reshape the court, right? And to get these extremists on there so that they could do this sort of litany of things that were not just rolling things back, but turning things in a direction that is this sort of extremist right radical court direction. So what's been the scheme that everyone's figured out? Well, this is what Leonard Leo and his Federalists do, is they go out and they decide, look, we don't want unions anymore because our benefactors are sick of that, right? And we don't think we should have unions. So, or we don't think there should be gay marriage, or we don't think of, how can we chip away at these things and get a case up to the Supreme Court where the Supreme Court can make a decision. Well, what's very, very clear with this court is that plotting and planning is done with those justices, with their clerks, with their they know it's coming. Then Leo goes out and he finds some case to manufacture. So he'll find someone to in Vegas, some worker, and say, you need to we'll fund you to do this lawsuit to sue your employer or sue your union because you want right to work or whatever they call it, union breaking. So they find an individual, they create a case, they fund the case, all with the goal that it's going to make its way through a very specific circuit, because they know it'll go into a circuit where they have a former clerk that worked for Clarence Thomas or something that's there. And they push the whole thing up till it gets to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is ready with its decision. They know, these justices know what they've been put on the bench to do, case by case, law by law, constitutional right by constitutional right that they're stripping. They know what they're there to do. And it's not just like a mafia speak, the mob boss are sort of, it's all implied. It's very, very, they know exactly what this is down to. I think we caught them on one case. The press caught them, and then researchers caught them too, of the people that were working for, I don't remember what justice it was, either Thomas or Alito, were actually, their clerks were actually creating the language that then the people who were bringing the case before them adopted and used. It very much is coordinated. They're really in on this. This is what they do. This is what they've been doing. This is how they're using the power of the bench, the power of the Supreme Court. So everything is cooked in a lab and matriculated up in a very intentional way, in a clear path, and everyone along the way knows what it is and what's coming and how the case is going to be positioned, how the arguments are going to be positioned, so that the justices already are ready to put their dick right in the crack of it and fuck it up for everybody, right? They're ready with that. They're ready with their, pecker, mustache, happy erection. Notice it's just like, he's like the happiest person ever. So they're ready. Right? Gonna get in there. Becker, he'll fuck anything. He'll fuck an alien baby. Oprah gained weight again. Let's fuck that up. So these justices are the same as a national choir. They're ready, right? It's all, they got the stories. It's coming. Okay. If anybody thinks it was any different with January 6th, I think they're out of their goddamn mind. This was, I just think we have to look at it that way. If we really pull back, These justices knew this was coming because not because January 6th happened. I'm talking about before, right? Maybe the reason Ginny Thomas was so involved was because she was their like little spy in there and making sure everybody did their thing and reporting back to the court so that they were prepared for their role. As I see it, their role had sort of an A and a B lane and maybe a C lane. And they found themselves in the C lane. So the A lane is the scheme, right? The scheme was we're going to have these electors. We're going to choose our own electors, and they're going to show up, right, with their own ballots, their own stuff, and contest the election. And so because we lost, we didn't really lose. Now, I mean, we know all this planning happened in November before the election even happened. They were ready with this scheme. So this was the plan, and they chose January 6th because we'll choose that day. Again, it's like finding that crack where that mustache can fuck it up. And so that little, let's stick ourselves in there, that date and that sort of like, this is when they certify the election. So if we delay the certification, right, with this fake elector scheme, which to them wasn't fake, but we'll just say there's these other electors, and then it'll make its way up to the Supreme Court, right? Just make its way up there. And the Supreme Court can decide everything will go on pause. And the Supreme Court's role is to take advantage. They're going to then take the ball once the pause happened. Well, that didn't go. That was plan A. It didn't happen because Mike Pence didn't do what he was supposed to do, what Donald thought he was going to do. And they had other legislators ready to delay things with holding the floor and making an argument. They had the Ted Cruzes and they had the whatever.
Tuberville.
They had all the whole thing, right? All right. So that was the first. Okay. Then B plan was if he doesn't, if Pence doesn't do this, then we'll have enough of a mob there. This is Roger Stone's part of it all. This is the Brooks Brother riots, right? Of 2000 redone to this day. The B lane is, okay, if they don't delay the certification that way, we'll have a show of mob outside. And then Donald can, because we've got the Pentagon, let's get the Pentagon ready for the National Guard. We'll do this whole thing and we'll get a pause that way. So we'll say, everybody, we can't vote now because there's this thing happening out front and we have to the will of the people. And then it will go to the Supreme Court because we've caused a pause. We'll have the National Guard come out later. That was B. C was all of that shit falls apart. And this guy, we're going to all go down for these crimes, right?
Whoops.
This is a big crime. It doesn't work. Joe Biden's still the president. They're going to come after us. I believe Ginny Thomas and the court was aware and prepared for all of those lanes. A being the easiest, B being the next, C being at some point, this is going to come in front of us. This case is going to come in front of us and we'll know what we are going to do with that. First, we'll delay. We got to delay. We got to make our time, right? It's not reactionary is my point. It's not like, oh, everything's just playing out and the court is showing up to sort of do. These motherfuckers were in there from the beginning, understanding that this was going to come in front of them, either A, B, or C. No one wanted the C, but the C has arrived. And they're willing to make any argument, including the argument that Bill Barr made to get the job the second time around as AG. So the argument isn't even new to any of these motherfuckers. It predates everything. They know this argument that presidents are above the law, basically, as long as they're presidents whenever they're doing whatever they're doing.
Unitary executive.
This is it. Yeah. So I just want everyone to pull back and kind of, I understand that the pundits and the lawyers and the former AGs and everyone, that they're all like, the court. But this court, it's no surprise. This is what they do. This is what they've been doing for quite a long time. White House has been trying to call it out. Everybody acknowledges that's real. Why would this case be any different in terms of how they operate than how they've been operating in every other single manner?
Yeah. And to your point, they were asked to pick this up and they didn't. And then suddenly they decided to do it like months late. There's no reason to take this case up at all unless you're trying to do exactly what you said, to delay and fuck with it and, get everything, prime the pump for the fascist takeover, for giving the president The president isn't immune from every law. Duh. And if he is, then give Joe Biden an AK and let him go. Come on, people. This is so stupid.
Also, if the whole thing is hinging on whether or not it was an official act, how you determine whether it was an official act or not is you try the case in court. So there also it's not even hypocrisy. It's just sort of a betrayal on every level of sort of saying the justice system can't figure this out. This is not, even though it's a crime, and we should be adjudicating whether it's a crime or an official act in a court. That process, which is the Jack Smith trial, that's the process of the Jack Smith trial.
Weird how they don't want it to go to trial. So strange.
Yeah, having a Supreme Court not want something to go to trial is, I think, we are in upside down world, and everyone just needs to get this. It's not the Supreme Court. And since Joe Biden will, even if they kick it down and say, well, this has to be determined whether or not it's an official, whatever they think the circuit court didn't do, or the appeals didn't do correctly, and they kick it back down, it's going to end up being that they're going to rule on the side of presidents are above the law. That they
no way. Immunity. Come on. No spoilers.
And so then I think Joe Biden really should disband the Supreme Court. He just should disband it.
That's an interesting point. I don't want to spend too much time.
I don't either, too. We got to get to our guest.
I know, but quickly, the problem that we're facing here is that the entire legal system of the United States is predicated on our collective belief in the Supreme Court as the ultimate arbiter of all things legal. And if it's just illegitimized, then that power goes away, and that's dangerous too. So I think it's a very, very hard needle to thread, and we have to thread it the right way. And the way to thread it is to do what Ethan Behrman said on the show, not expand the court, unpack the court. I would say unfuck the court, but there needs to be more people on there. And if they put a lot of people on there, it will automatically make all of these losers go back under their rock because they will no longer have power. And that's
and they'll take their ticket they'll go and they'll work for a great big firm, and they'll start making $2 or $3 million a year, because they won't be able to benefit off of their position either through all the private interests. Yeah. So
disgusting people. Okay.
But anyway, Ginny Thomas, I think she's a ringer. I don't think she's a ringleader or a crazy woman. I think she's a ringer. I think she's the inside man, quite possibly. For Roberts.
Yeah, for all of them. I mean, I think that, prove it wrong.
Prove it wrong.
Because everything that's what certainly what it looks like from the outside. Okay, moving on. Okay, some assembly required. I want to talk a little bit about all this campus stuff, because it's boggles my mind a little bit that this is happening right now. And I don't know. I was busy this week with things like extracurricular things that have nothing to do with news. And these things have been popping up. And it's interesting to see how the story of students protesting on their own campuses is being covered by the national media, and how what people take away from it, and what people, like just people in my life that, consume different news than I do, perceive what's happening. And one of the things that they perceive is the protests on campus are violent. The protests on campus are all, either anti-Semitic or, hateful, full of hate. And the cops are necessary to shut this stuff down. And I don't think any of those three things are true, factually, if you go in. So I spent a lot of time. I went through and read some of the coverage about what's happening. And I also went and read some of the coverage from the student newspapers, which I think is very important, because they're the voices on the ground, and they're there and they know what's happening. So this all Columbia seems to be the sort of the epicenter for this, which is obviously in New York City. I don't understand for the life of me. I get, if you're a protester and you're like on the GWB, the cops have to move you out of the way. We can't have that. There's ambulances coming and shit. No, you can't do that. If you're a student at Columbia and you want to protest on the campus of Columbia, who the fuck just do it? Why do we need to just let them pitch tents and hang out and protest? What's the problem? Why is the president of Columbia, whose name is Minutia. They call her Minutia. Fuck you. That's what the signs say at Columbia, which is chef's kiss. But I don't like. I'm reading this. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, what's the purpose of just like shutting everything down? Like, it doesn't serve any academic purpose. Like, a lot of these protests, and I think all of them on the campuses, are also, the professors are there. They're holding classes outside, from what I read.
Right.
And it's all part of the whole fabric of a college, which is a place of learning. And where are you going to look? What better opportunity to learn than something like this, which is a complicated issue? You know, it's complicated. What's happening in Gaza is complicated because Bibi, as we've discussed many times on this show, is horrible and evil and genocidal and just is doing all of this stuff basically because he doesn't want to go to jail. And the United States government is giving him money to do it. That's happening. So anybody watching this has to be like, what the fuck is going on here? That we can't be doing this. Why are we funding that? We don't want to fund that. We don't want to fund hospitals being blown up and kids being killed and journalists and academics and everything else, right? Well, why do we want that? So I think that most of the people protesting on the campuses have that response to something like this and say, we need to try to stop this. We need to put pressure on the administration to stop it. We don't want to play a part in the genocide, right? Now, that has nothing to do with Jewish people writ large. It certainly has nothing to do with American Jewish people. It has nothing to do with most people in Israel who hate Bibi as much as we do, if not more. It has to do with a very narrow sense, right? And then when they say they're pro-Palestine, that isn't accurate really either, because they're pro basically not killing everybody, that seems to be a good position to take. I'd rather not have a bunch of people die for no reason that aren't involved with any of this. Innocent people die. And so it's complicated. And how to learn about something complicated is to, participate in something like this and learn about it. Now, are there bad actors that have infiltrated the campuses? Yes. Are there people pushing certain narratives from the extreme right and the extreme left? Yes. Is this being like boosted by the right wing because it hurts Biden? Oh, fucking yes in a million.
Yeah.
Right? That's absolutely happening. But at the end of the day, the way that I see this is a fucking First Amendment issue. This is yet another right that they're trying to take away from us, which is the right of assembly, the freedom of assembly, the freedom of protest, which we need to be able to do to make our voices heard. So what's the message that we're sending right now to the students by sending in jackbooted fucking cops who, the first time most of them have ever setting foot on a college campus, and beating people up? You're going to tase somebody? You're going to, what's the point of that? No one's being violent. That's not what's happening.
There's some, you can't globalize
I'm talking about the vast majority of the students.
And there are
campuses.
There are real threats against Jewish students. Real.
Yes, absolutely.
And and there are places to assemble and places not to assemble. So this is on the presidents of the universities. This is on them.
Yeah.
Because they could resolve all of this one way or another. And if the protesters are unwilling to, in the process of exercising all their rights, also understand that those rights come with, you do need to, if you're assembling, you have freedom to assembly. There's rules around all that. So I'm not being contrary to anything you said. I agree with everything you say. I just don't like the global sweeping of it. As you said, it's complicated and complex.
Yeah, no,
what I like is what you connected there of this is now these kids are seeing what it is to have their rights infringed on, to have their rights stomped on.
Yeah.
And there is only one person for president who actually is interested in protecting our rights. So maybe this will get them to care again about women and our right to our body and our bodily autonomy, and that we don't want to be raped and then forced into giving birth to a rapist baby. We don't want to have to have a pregnancy that we are mourning because it's not viable, but now our lives, now we're going to die and not be there for our other children, or possibly lose our organs. We heard that from Alito. Oh, they lose an organ. Well, whatever. Because we can't get a medical procedure, can't get an abortion to save our organs, to save our body, to save our own life. So I care about everyone's rights. And I don't know what it's going to take for these kids to realize that in the process of everything they're fighting for, which they have the right to fight for.
Yeah.
There is a candidate for president who, and two of them actually, with RFK, who are interested in you not having that right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're all about stripping the rights, and they're all about using the Supreme Court to do that. And they're coming for you. They are coming for you. They are coming to silence you. They are. So get it together. Stop being used.
But what is
raise your voices, but stop being used into letting yourself get so out of your goddamn mind, radicalized, that you're calling for the death of a fellow student simply because they're Jewish.
Nobody wants that. I think nobody wants that. And I think that 98% of the people at the protests are not doing
I
that.
agree with that.
Yeah.
And so I remember with the Black Lives Matter, and I saw Aaron post this on Twitter, and he's right. When that started to happen, you started to get these agitators in, which they come in right away, and they make it, if not inflaming kids to do this from the beginning, right, from afar, because it serves the purpose of destabilizing our country and destabilizing the discourse. So you've got an active measure inside of all this complexity, and you've got Americans who are willing to craft their own and engage in that because they see value. You have right-wing extremists on social media saying, hey, everybody, this is what we want you to do. Infiltrate, wear a mask, put a thing on, agitate, because they know it helps their agenda. They know it's going to get their guy into office. So that's what I mean about being used. And with Black Lives Matter, with those protests were happening, the real activists were able to see the outside agitators or even the internal extremists and say, we're not with them. That's not us.
Columbia did that. Columbia did that 5 days ago. They put out a statement that said exactly that.
Yeah.
Just FYI. So these are smart kids. They're Ivy League kids. For the most
doing
part.
that.
Doxing them is also dangerous, which I've seen some groups do.
Oh, for God's sake.
That's fucking bad. That's
really
bad form. That doesn't solve anything. That creates, a call to violence. And I just want to say, just to sum up, like we've, as soon as October 7th happened, I knew this was going to happen. We talked about it.
Yeah.
We've talked about it on the show. But at the end of the day, Bibi is doing what he's doing. That's real and it's awful. And the U.S. government is funding it, which is also awful. And I get why kids look at that and are appalled.
Absolutely.
So if we want here's the thing. If we want the protest to stop funding the fucking awfulness and demand
I don't want
Bibi.
the protest to stop. I just want people to, I want the
I'm talking about the president and the people in power.
Oh, if they want it.
If they want it to stop, do what the students want. Stop giving the money to Bibi's got to go. We said this on October 8th and it remains true.
I think I said this in 2016 and it remains true. This man is a horror. He's a monster.
He is.
All right. Speaking of monsters, we have a little bit. So I think there's something, maybe a little song.
I think there's a little song. We need a little song. We need a little levity.
A little levity.
All I want is a little more, and to stop being called a whore. When I'm wife number 4, yes, I'll be MAGA royalty. South Dakota's too small for me. I'm the governor with brand new teeth. I will be his VP peeping Mr. Trumpleberry Leap.
None of them are stormy, but they're both 8 out of 10. They will keep me occupied till hope comes again.
You're his lawyer and you're not hot. You his running mate, I think not. What you want, I still got, don't mess with Slovenia, Treasonly, Putiny,
Do a fantastic job.
Crimey, KGB.
Yay! Yay to the great Stephanie St. John and Chunk.
Chunk.
Incredible.
Okay,
vocals.
so if you watch it again, which I encourage everybody to watch it again, when Melania says you're not hot, she mouths the fuck.
So good.
That's true.
And
Chunk,
by the way,
excellent.
it would have been, this was obviously all put together before the news of Christine Owen broke today, that she killed her puppy, just to kill a puppy. So instead of I'm the governor with brand new teeth, it'd been, I think I'm the governor who shoot puppies.
Yeah. Who shoot puppies? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Would she brag about that? I don't know. Just Trump doesn't
She's gonna
strike
brag
me as a
about
dog
that. Well,
person.
she's
Yeah.
bragging about it. She knows Trump hates dogs, so she put in her book. So that's how this is the low that we're at. They kill dogs.
This is why Commander Biden should be in charge of this whole thing, I say.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't.
Okay.
I want to get to our guest.
Let's have him on. Okay, this is exciting. We already know who's coming. We already know this is coming. Our guest spent 20 years in the U.S. Navy, 16 and a half of those years working at Naval Intelligence. After that, he was a government contractor at a bunch of places that lots of names in there that we're going to ask him about. He was an actor and still is an actor. He's an amateur boxer and a boxing analyst. And now he's MAGA's worst nightmare. From New Rochelle, New York, Bad Brad Berkwitt.
Oh,
Welcome to 5-8, Brad. That's why I asked where you were from. See, I was going to do the boxing.
I like that. You're Michael Buffer in the house.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ready to rumble. We are ready to rumble.
We are ready to rumble.
We're ready to rumble.
Yeah.
Hi, Brad. Welcome to 5-8.
Thank you for the invite.
Oh, we're just thrilled to have you. We have a lot to talk about. I wanted to know right off the bat, before we get into you and your stuff, any of your thoughts you might have had about those first two topics, the Trump, the Supreme Court immunity, the kids on campus, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I actually wrote, I'm glad you asked me. I actually wrote some notes. One thing that I'm for, I actually feel that the Supreme Court should no longer be life appointments or however it is. I don't think you should be on there till you die, basically. It's something I feel the same way with term limits in the Senate, the House as well. It's got to stop. We get people in there like Chuck Grassley for 100 years. We get Clarence Thomas, who's been around since early 1990s. They don't change with the times. They're set in their ways. And the things that you're talking about that they're doing, it was always in them to do these type of things. So when you have them on there for life appointments or whatever, however it's called, I don't know if it's an appointment, but it gets completely out of hand. So that's the first thing I was thinking about when you said that. Thomas is compromised. And if you remember, was it the tapes that they voted on to be released and all the justices voted to release them? And Thomas was the only one that, I think the word is dissent or whatever it is, that he voted not to release the tapes, I think it was.
Yep.
Am I right on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to protect the wife, though.
Got to protect Ginny. Right. Which is interesting because I'm not saying she did anything and I'm not saying she didn't, but that was a knock on Liz Cheney that Liz never brought up Thomas's wife during these hearings.
She protected her.
She stayed away from her. She protected her. You know, she's the saint of the left because she did the right thing in the moment, but Liz voted for Trump twice, and so did Adam Kinzinger. So that I was thinking about that when you were talking about Thomas. Bibi is the Jewish Trump. My 50% European Jew hates his fucking guts because he's Trump. But it's interesting because remember, Trump is mad at him because Bibi didn't get down and kiss the ring too much over something he did for Bibi. So that would be interesting because everything's transactional with Trump. So that was out there. And I think you alluded to this, Greg, but did you talk about, I understand the protesting, most of them are doing the right thing. The thing I didn't like, and I wouldn't care what cause it is when they're blocking bridges and stuff.
No, you can't. Yeah, I agree. You can't do that.
That's insanity. I mean, go ahead.
No, I looked through one of the things I was looking for when I was reading the articles is where they were. The kids at Yale were like on the campus at Yale in some plaza. Just who cares? Let them stay there.
Yeah,
then when they went to block the traffic, then they got to go. Then there's no.
Right. Yeah. That's out of hand. I mean, that's not even in the playbook. I mean, ambulance has to get through, especially in California and New York. I don't know where they did it, but wherever it was, there was a lot of traffic. So
yeah,
that's true. Okay, I have a question before we get into the nitty gritty about you. This is an important question, I think, for you specifically. Something big happened this week, which is that rumors came out that there's going to be a Frank Sinatra biopic. And that DiCaprio is going to star and Martin Scorsese is going to direct the Frank Sinatra biopic. So my question is that good casting or should Scorsese just say, fuck you, Leo, and cast you as Sinatra? What do you think?
It would be a dream come true. No, I think it's good casting. I think he's a damn good actor. I loved him when he played Howard Hughes. So, no, it's good casting. I don't know if it's going to happen, though, because it was supposed to happen years ago, and they get into the technicalities of it. Stephanie, you know this is your line of work. You don't know until they're on the set and they're shooting. But I'm just glad that he died May 14, 1998. And I'm just glad that all these years later, he's still in the restaurants I go in. A lot of the kids still know Frank Sinatra. So I love it.
I was living in Hoboken when he died, which was interesting because he grew up in Hoboken.
Yes.
And then never went back and hated it. But the place went nuts. Like every car went, no matter what the car looked like or what you thought music would come out of the car, everybody was blasting Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Like everybody. It was really amazing. It was like a unifying, it really struck me in a way. Yeah, it was good stuff.
Yeah, that's my guy. I love Frank.
I know. Okay, so you've been taking it to the MAGAs. So for the benefit of people on here in our audience who might not know who you are and be familiar with your work, talk a little bit about stuff you've been doing and calling these people out, these Jack Posobiec and this cat turd. What's your MO? What are you up to these days?
Well, to back it up a little bit, my show with Stephanie has been on, and you'll be on soon too, was boxing. It was sports. That's where I made my bones doing interviews over a quarter century, which led to me getting inducted into Florida Boxing Hall of Fame. But when Trump came along, I wasn't really political. I voted in my elections, and I was always for socialist or civil rights. But when COVID hit, and I had to listen to that fucking bastard every single day, get in front of the camera with the bleach and the light, and that he could have been a doctor because they told him, sir. They always call him sir. You know what? No one calls this fucker sir, except for Walt Nada, maybe. And so Walt Nada, forget about it. I had to look at that. I'm like, you know what? I have to go in a different direction. And it also stopped me from being able to have guests come in. I had a studio in my house. So with COVID, they couldn't come no more. So I said, you know what? Let me change my whole format. So I said, you know what? I'm going after Trump. I'm bringing guests on that are moving humanity forward and fighting for democracy, because Trump is an existential threat to democracy and humanity. They go hand in hand, which led to having all the type of guests that I have on. So fast forward, I turned 56 last week.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I mention this because for 55 years, and this is fact, I've never been called a fucking pedophile, a groomer, that my shadow box behind me, I bought those ribbons and medals. I got stolen valor. I wasn't in the intel field. I wasn't this. I wasn't that, until I pushed back on MAGA. So they never come back with policies. So what I said, you know what? I'm tired of seeing them pick up the microphone, and at these rallies, you see the good liars and other people interviewing them, and they say the dumbest fucking shit known to man and woman. And it's unbelievable that they even believe this, but a lot of them do. A lot of them, it's their racism and misogyny that they align their lips to Trump's ass. So I said, you know what? I'm tired of it. So what I'm going to do is what I do best. As far as that type of stuff, is I'm going to Don Rickles their ass with a lot of 4-letter words with facts in between. I always put facts in between when I call them out. You donate to a billionaire, make it make sense. Why does a billionaire need your $10, $20, $30 to his coffers? He's a billionaire. Being called a pedophile and a groomer, all these type of things, they project on us what they are. But that's like there's rules of engagement. Like, for example, I never would attack Barron Trump when he was underage. I haven't attacked him now that he's 18. If stuff comes out about Barron that's factual, we'll address that later. If he comes out and he's like Toot Jr., as I call him, Donald Jr., I call him Toot, and Dumbs Trump, Eric, and Bonky, they threw themselves in a ring with him. So they're fair game. I used to tell people on our side, don't attack him when he's underage. There's rules of engagement. They don't play by rules of engagement.
No.
I don't call people pedophiles just to throw it out there. I think that's the most vile thing that you could put on somebody. They see in my profile 2 flags, LGBTQ, the trans flag, and it says ally, which my father was many years before when he took on Anita Bryant in the 70s. That if the people watching go to my Twitter page, look at the pinned tweet. That's my father in NBC Nightly News, June 2nd, 77. So they did that stuff. They said, oh, faggot, you're queer, you're this. It says ally, you 2 teeth, 2 fucking brain cells, dumbass bastards. But it doesn't matter because that's how they come at you. And by the way, they don't even say faggot anymore. But they say faggot because that's how Trump talks. That's how Mike Flynn talks. That's how Posobiec and Cat Turd, Philip Buchanan, I don't even like to call that stupid name. It's ridiculous. That's how they talk. So that's where the MMF videos, which stands for maggot motherfuckers, they do the most. They do the fucking most with the motherfucking least. And they do. And there's MMFVs. MMFVs are maggot motherfucking veterans. They even get more mad at me because I was a veteran and I took that oath just like they took that oath. But when you support a treasonous traitor like Trump and you're okay with January 6th and you went there to overturn a free and fair election, then you're a fucking traitor. And like I said on my show, and I mean it, I don't care what service-related injury you have, PTSD, which, by the way, remember, he minimized that. Traumatic head injuries, Trump said headaches, minimize that.
Yeah.
Called us suckers and losers. Called his brother Fred Trump, who was in the Air National Guard. I always have to correct our side. They say no Trump ever served. Fred Trump Jr. served in the Air National Guard because I only talk facts, 2nd lieutenant. They call him a father, and Donald called him bus driver in the sky. So you're supporting a treasonous traitor. You're shitting on the oath that I took that I still uphold. I don't care if you're a Republican. Fine. I don't care if you voted for anybody else. Well, Nick DeSantis is a piece of shit. We know that. Most of the ones they put up were shit. But if you're with Trump after January 6th, it's no more policies. It's treason. And that's fact. He is a treasonous traitor. You mentioned it earlier. You're talking about, or Stephanie, maybe you did, about the courts, the Jack Smith case about January 6th. Let's settle it there. You know, you talked about BLM and Antifa. If you have any fucking brain cells in your head and you still believe that it was Antifa and Black Lives Matter that went to the fucking Capitol, I'll dispel it like this. Trump let them go for 187 minutes and didn't do a fucking thing. When he finally did, and I believe he shot that video twice, he said, and I quote, "We love you, go home." Would he ever say to Antifa and BLM, "We love you and go home"? Ever?
Good point. Good point. He also would have called in the dogs on them.
They would have been killed.
Yeah.
They would have been killed. If they were really Black Lives Matter, they would have been killed. And the whole FBI thing, oh, it's the FBI. Get the fuck out of here. It was the FBI. But see, they came after us because the far left came up with that bullshit slogan, defund the police. I hated that slogan. President Biden had to deal with it. And he said, I don't stand with that. But now the right says defund the FBI, defund the DOJ. See the hypocrisy. You mentioned hypocrisy earlier, Stephanie. The hypocrisy of these fucking people. What do these kids say today? I think they say on fleek. It's on fleek.
I think that there's a couple things in there, I think, to talk about a little bit. And we were talking about this in the pre-game or the pre-show of how to take on the loudest voices in the room, coming from a very, I think, very knowledgeable place that Trump is a traitor, that he's horrible. They just we're the enemy. I don't know what our group is, but it's this grievance of like, we want these guys of like, I just love that he hates the people I hate. And so at the core is that, and then there are folks who are just opportunists, and they're riding it because they found a way to make money in this game. And they're sadists and they're craven and they like it. They're also all humorless. They're all artless.
Yes.
So this is a form of entertainment to them, a form of enjoyment. It's sadism and rage. And there's like their brains are geared into getting some type of feedback for that is satisfying for them. So I think there's a mix of all of who these characters are. Your choice to sort of say, okay, you want to be in the ring with me? Let's go. I will take you on. I am going to come at you directly. And I am going to challenge you directly. And I'm also going to insult you. And I'm going to call out your crap. And I'm going to get you off of me and off of the people that I care about. If I see you attacking them, I'm coming right for you.
Yeah.
And I'm coming hard. So until you're gone. And if it's going to take months and months and years, or you're never gone because you're getting paid to just do this, that's fine. I'm going to keep throwing a punch at you. I'm just not going to sit back and relax and think that it's okay to just, right. And we had our last guest is complete opposite, right? And she's got there genuinely, Sandy Bacon, who's a videographer.
Oh yeah, I saw a show.
Photojournalist, yes. And she's been out with the extremists since Charlottesville, and she's gotten to know them. Enrique Tarrio loves her. Like, it's like, and it's not that she's trying to make friends. She's just coming at it from her heart and from a different place and seeing if there's a connection. I don't know that one is more effective than the other. And I'm in the camp of, I think both are needed. So I admire that it's not wearing you down, or maybe it is wearing you down.
No, it's not. To be honest with you, it's not, because they give me material every day. But like I said, take the motherfuckers and the fuck out of it and listen to what's in between. And I'm going to tell you, I've gotten DMs and people have contacted me from around the world, because there's people overseas, because they understand the existential threat that Trump is. It's not just the United States of America that's going to get fucked over. Our allies are going to get fucked over too. And what they understand, the military people that follow me understand that if he pulls out of NATO and we get attacked, we're fucked. Don't get me wrong, we're a powerful military. We are. Which, by the way, let me just get this in there for your viewers. Let's go way back with Trump. Very insulting when he said during the campaign, the McCain thing was horrible. I call it out all the time. When he said, we don't win anymore. You know how fucking insulting it is to my brothers and sisters in arms, including the fucking dumbass MAGA people that are in the military too, because we got a lot of them in the military too. So you're in harm's way, and you got a guy that never served, took 5 draft deferments. And look, let's be honest. There was a lot of rich kids that took deferments, but Trump wasn't honest with it to say, yeah, I took a deferment, whatever. He got bone spurs, but he can't tell you what foot they're in. So he belittles us. Bill Clinton didn't serve in the military. Barack Obama didn't serve in the military. That didn't bother me as a military person. That's fine. They respected the military. This fucking guy doesn't respect the military. So when I come after them, I'm also coming after the veterans because, like I said, I took my oath very seriously. When you support a treasonous traitor and you have people that literally say that Putin is a good guy, you have lost your fucking minds. But like I said, why don't you all get on a plane if you can make it there? Don't be like the head of the Wagner group that his plane went and crashed. Go over to there and see what Pootie Poot does with you guys when you start acting like you do here, which is your rights to do. Protest, which is your right to do in this country. Do it over in Russia and see how many motherfucking windows you conveniently fall out of or something that you drink that's poison because Putin ain't going to play that shit. And you notice all the shit that Trump talks. Has he went to Russia one time since he's been ex-president to be with Putin in Russia? Has anybody seen him over there?
I don't think he's left the omelet station at
Exactly.
other than to go to the rally.
He's not
right. And you notice when Tucker went, Stephanie, when Tucker went, he didn't ask no hardball questions because in the back of Tucker's mind, another fucking coward weasel, he knew in the back of his mind that if I asked Putin the wrong question, my plane may not make it out of here. I may not make it out of here.
Forget the plane. He might get killed immediately.
Yeah,
I watched that. I was afraid he was going to get shot on sight.
Yeah. So, yeah. But that's what the MMF is. So, like I said, yeah, it's hitting them. But I don't like that they attack our side with the pedophile, the groomer, the this, the that. There's rules of engagement, and they don't do rules of engagement. So, you know what? I'm gonna take it to you every single day. And people say to me all the time, Brad, keep doing what you speak for me. I can't curse like you. I can't flow like you. I can't keep those facts in my head. How you throw the facts in there too about things that are going on. So in that regard, I also feel that I'm a voice for the people that are frustrated. And I'm also in a position, to be honest, I'm retired. So I could say what the fuck I want, how I want to say it. Right. I'm not worried about going to a 9-to-5 job. And my employer say, hey, you say a lot of motherfuckers on your show, so that's where I'm at.
In other words, in short, you are on fleek, I think is what
you're on fleek.
Yeah. I think
there you go.
That's the way to say it. Before we go to the next topic, I want to ask about your background in naval intelligence. I know you can't talk about a lot of this stuff.
Right.
Is there any story that you can tell us about any of your experiences there that stands out for you? That just will, I guess what I'm getting at is I want to know what it's like to do those jobs. Like what's a story?
What is the job? Right.
Yeah.
What is naval
Something like that.
There's all types of things. Yeah. There's all types of things. Where I was intel for all those years. The biggest part that I played was during two times during both wars. The Gulf War, I was stationed in Sigonella, Sicily, and I worked the Defense Courier Service. We were couriering classified material in the darkness of night all over that went to the front lines. So I was in and out of country delivering material, even though the MAGA says you never did any of this stuff. They know my whole career. So that's the other reason why I pushed back on. We played a huge part in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and what was going on. When we came back home, it was different type of country. When we came back to the States, a lot of troops, unlike the Vietnam troops, we were treated the right way. And you know about the history of how troops were treated. Vietnam War sucked. We shouldn't have been there. But you can't attack the troops that get drafted. I wasn't drafted. That draft ended, I think, in 73. I was selective service. I volunteered. I joined. We were treated the right way. So that was a bone of contention. I just recently had John Bowser Bowman from Sha Na on my show, and he talks about that because of his generation was the Vietnam generation. When the Iraq War kicked off, I was in the Pentagon. It was my last tour of duty. I worked for the Army. I'm the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff. The chairman was General Peter Pace. And I worked for Psychological Operations Division. I ran their SCIF. And if you're familiar with the SCIF, that's Sensitive Compartment Information Facility, you guys might have heard of that because that's where they wanted Trump to go with his classified material, but he decided having his fucking gaudy toilet over at Mar-a-Lago. And then he didn't want to go to a SCIF, and then he wanted to build a SCIF down there, which costs a lot of money to build out a SCIF. And they said, we're not doing that. So I dealt with that. We did a lot of stuff with, they were involved in dropping pamphlets and stuff like that, changing, as they call hearts and minds, dropping pamphlet bombs in these countries. So people are reading what's really going on, because as we know in these countries, they're being fed a bunch of bullshit. Like North Korea, all they got is what Kim Jong-un tells them. And I was also, and did some intel stuff that I can't really get into, but I was in South Korea when Kim Jong-un's father was in charge, who was a murderous bastard. But for your viewers, if you don't know, research it. Probably the worst one that's ever going to be is the sister. His sister is fucking evil. Research her. She's really, really evil.
Yeah, she's bad.
But,
she's bad.
Trump with that. There's another thing with Trump, with the military. Whenever you ever had a president, Kim Jong-un, Putin, Orban, Xi, kissing dictators' asses. I've never seen that.
Netanyahu.
Reagan didn't do it.
Netanyahu.
Yeah, Netanyahu. Exactly. I finally said that right. Bibi, right. Yeah. So those are some of the things I could talk about.
Bolsonaro.
Bolsonaro. There you go. Another one.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any dealings with Mike Flynn at all in the 20 whatever years that you were there?
No, I know people, I won't name them, that know him now that I've gotten into this, changing the format of my show, that said that they feel that they knew what he was and they still promoted him. Which that if that's true, and there are people that got promoted that didn't deserve it, that's not a good thing. Because I always tell people, look, they always want to say, thank you for your service. They think because you put on a uniform, that makes you a wonderful person. No, it does not. If you were a rotten bastard before you put on a uniform, if you were racist, if you were a misogynistic pig because you're going to have men and women working for you, you're going to be the same things in the military, most likely. Very few change their spots. And maybe some young guy that was never around African Americans growing up. And I had some troops that were, and I always brought teams together, and I always wanted diversity on my teams. So they would come to me in private and say, I never worked with, I never really was around African Americans.
That's different. That's different.
Right.
It's very similar to if you're vying for a job to sit on the bench of the highest court in the land, and during your job interview, you lie, and then it comes up you like to put pubic hair on Coca-Cola cans and
Spuds?
Verbally assault women. No, that was Thomas.
Oh.
That you're probably putting on that robe probably isn't going to do anything but give you even more opportunity to dig in your pants and stick some stuff on some Coca-Cola cans. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's the same. It doesn't change people. It doesn't.
No, it doesn't. And
they end up changing the institution.
Yes.
If there's enough of them. Why do they let Fox News on the bases?
That is the $64,000 question. I get asked that all the time by people. Why do they do it? And I can't answer that. I don't know. Like I said, I try to deal in only facts. You would think that SecDef Austin would be like, we're going to put an end to that, but it's still there. And that's not news. And I don't understand. And I'm going to tell you something. There are a lot of Republicans that are in the military, but I was a Democrat, and we could argue over policies, but they didn't go full, at least during my time. Now, I retired in 2006. So I worked under Reagan, Papa Bush, Clinton, and then George, the son. Those were my commanders in chief. I didn't agree with all of them at all times. There was things that I didn't agree with. But I never outright disrespected. I never felt like, he's still the commander in chief. If I had to serve under Trump, oh my God, it'd be horrible. I don't know why they have Fox News. I would hope that it's as simple as Austin changing it, but maybe it's not. I don't know. It's wrong because that's not news. They're really treasonous traitors. And they're such fucking hypocrites there, because when the text came out, Tucker Carlson said he's so happy if we could be rid of Trump, but it's all transactional.
Yeah.
Sean Hannity talked about Sidney Powell and all of these creeps that they have on, but they're so fucking hypocritical.
Yeah. It's not news.
No, it's not.
It's not news.
No.
Oh, yay. Okay. So I'm going to stick this on right now as we transition.
Thank you, True Player.
Thank you, True Player, for showing everybody where to find Brad for the Bad Brad Berkwitt show. Berkwitt. I always put that O in there. I know I put the O in there, and I need to just go Berkwitt. And get it right.
Brad Berkwitt. I love it. I love all that stuff. I love all the.
It's fun.
But I will say this. I served with Mattis. I didn't know Mattis personally. And I did appreciate that Mattis made it about the troops when he was SecDef, and when they were going around and doing that slaba on Elena Habanaba Trumpa shit at the table. And they're saying, Pence was, oh, you're so wonderful. You're 215 pounds. I'm exaggerating. 215 pounds, Trump, and they all were giving him oral sex at the table. Mattis said it's an honor to serve the troops. He never said him. But I did a video. It wasn't an MMF video. I did one the other day, and I said, right now, for democracy, and if you want to say you're true Americans, McMaster, General Mattis, General Milley, and John Kelly. No, I'm not a fan. You notice I didn't say general because I don't respect John Kelly. But if you want to try to do the right thing and try to have some type of redemption before you leave planet Earth, because you let Trump attack Gold Star families when he's a Gold Star father himself, you four need to go out and tour every state and talk to people, because there will be some people that will listen to the military guys about how Trump is, because the Fox bubble, they're not going to hear it.
Especially veterans.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Veterans.
Yes.
Okay.
I suspect they will when it gets closer to it.
I hope so. I'm being told they will, but when I see it, I'll believe it, Greg.
Amazing. All right, I'm going to put a timer on.
All
so
right.
we give you all that time, and then we want to get back to our 8 minutes and get into dirty laundry. So, Brad, you staying with us for the rest of the show?
Yes.
We want you in this conversation.
Excellent.
Okay. All right, Greg, what do you mean by dirty laundry?
Well, I don't know if you knew this. I know there's a lot going on this week. Mostly the Knicks are playing, and Joel Embiid tried to injure one of our players, and it should have been ejected. It wasn't. That's the most important thing that happened this week. But there's other things apparently that have happened, which a former president of the United States is in court in New York City, in criminal court, because he's being tried for crimes, which is kind of a big deal, I guess, because it's never, ever happened before in the history of the country. And I kind of went into the crimes a little bit because I forgot about all the hush money stuff. And there's a couple of points that I want to make, because some of the characters now that we remember from like season 2, we're in like season 11 now. Remember in season 2 when this guy, right? They're starting to come out again. Like, do it again, LB. Let's see the David Pecker.
Oh.
David Pecker.
That'll fuck anything.
George Carlin had a line about that. You know, some guys will anything. That's a signpost, Bob. Anyway, so Pecker had an immunity deal like 5 years ago, 6 years. It's a long time ago now. This has been in the works for a long time. Michael Cohen went to prison. He went out of prison. It was COVID, this and that. He has a podcast. He's completely, and now he's back in this role where he was the president's attorney. There's all this stuff happening. But first of all, I want to show, I have a visual aid because I went and read the indictment just to get in the mood. And in the indictment, there's a helpful visual, which they put in there, which is this. Okay. So this is the catch and kill scheme to influence the election, right? There's the meeting at Trump Tower, and there's $30,000 in hush money to the doorman who said that Trump had a child out of wedlock, which David Pecker thought was not true. There's $130,000 in hush money to woman 2, who may or may not. Stormy Daniels' real name, by the way, I know you're sick of me saying this, LB, is Stephanie Gregory, which is, again, simulation. Okay. And $150,000 in hush money to the Playboy model. Okay. And this all goes through the pipe. So that's what we're kind of adjudicating. And the idea is it's totally legal to pay people for silence. All of this stuff is legal unless it's done to affect an election with that purpose in mind, which apparently is a hard thing to prove. Anyway, the point I want to make here is Jared Kushner, my friend, Brad, how you like to, there's certain people you want to hit, because they're from your back, right? Kushner grew up right up the street from me in New Jersey, and he's awful. So I want to make sure that the stink of this affixes itself to this motherfucker, because he's out there. He's got a little beard. He's got his, Ivanka's sharing pictures of them looking so normal on the Instagram. They're such nice people, blah, blah, blah. Jared Kushner, okay, you can go back and look. There's an article written in the Daily Beast in December 14, 2018, talking about the transition period in after the election. Okay. Michael Cohen thinks he's going to have a plum job. He thinks he's going to be chief of staff.
Yeah.
Doesn't work out because he's too toxic. And they start to distance themselves from him. So Michael Cohen was the guy who was the principal liaison to Pecker and AMI and the National Enquirer, which is basically like, it's a Trump propaganda rag. And there's money that's like a slush fund for that, to kill stories about that, and also promote stories like Hillary Clinton has interminable cancer, will be dead in 8 months. Like that shit ran. Okay. So here's some things about AMI, the parent company. First of all, remember the anthrax scare? Like and guess who owned the company that went to clean up AMI?
Jared
Giuliani.
Oh, Giuliani.
Rudy
Okay.
Giuliani. Oh my God, Rudy! Wow, this guy's everywhere. He's like the Zelig of horrible shit, right? But Kushner takes over from Michael Cohen. Okay, after Cohen is getting shown the door, Kushner becomes the liaison to AMI and Pecker, and he's known Pecker for years because at that time Kushner owns the New York Observer, which he bought and promptly ruined. And the guy that was really the liaison, that was the editor-in-chief of the Observer, is a guy named Ken Kurson, who Trump pardoned for stalking. He was about to go to trial for stalking. And it's very hard to like even indict somebody for that. So
aggravated stalking, if there's not a violent act,
it's very hard.
Very, very, very hard. I know all about this.
So I know
you have to really be a personal terrorist to somebody. Like it's that level of terrorism to actually have a prosecutors be willing to bring a case against you. So he got pardoned.
He got pardoned before it went to trial.
Right.
Like, this is the thing. Like, I know
they didn't want that guy playing any cards.
This is the argument.
They didn't want him trading information to get out of trouble.
I want people to. This is the argument I think to make to people who are not paying attention in politics. The corruption of these pardons is so awful. Anyway, Ken Kurson, again, like the bad penny, turns up in this AMI thing. So it's him. By the way, after the pardon, he still violated the law and wound up. Some people, once a bicycle thief, always a bicycle thief, as the saying goes. Ken Kurson, not a bicycle thief. Other people, maybe. Anyway, the point here is that Kushner was very involved with this. He was directly involved with managing Trump's relationship with David Pecker of the Enquirer and AMI from after the election of 2016 into the early days of at least 2017. And I bet his name hasn't come up here. Why, LB? Why, oh, why hasn't Jared Kushner's name come up? Does he have a good PR agent or something?
He does. He certainly does. What do you think, Brad? I don't know that you and I have ever talked about Jared Kushner.
Well, I mean, Kushner, Jesus. Jared, I fixed the Middle East, Kushner. I don't even know what to say. I mean, he needs to be also, if Biden wins in November, they need to start all these hearings, and we could take the House back. We need to have hearings about the $2 billion from MBS.
Thank you.
It's time. It's time. So I don't know that much about this one here. I know he was a slumlord. There was a documentary I saw where he I think in Baltimore with those apartments, he was treating people horrible. I mean, he's a rotten, arrogant person. And Chris Christie, not completely what you're talking about. Chris Christie got his because we know that Christie put his father in prison, and he really thought that he was going to be attorney general after all of that shit. He was going to come into the White House, and Jared Kushner was not going to forget he put his father in prison. It's insane. It's like 6 degrees of scumbags, I swear.
It really is. I mean, the thing I always say about Jared, and then we'll move on, is why is Donald so terrified of Jared?
Because he knows everything.
He knows everything, but I think there's a little more going on there about who Jared Kushner maybe really is. But Donald's terrified of him. Jared took credit for everything that could be spun to be a positive about the Trump administration. I don't think any of it was, but if it was something where it could be like an accomplishment, he took credit for it. He would not let Trump take credit for any of that. He took credit for it. Who else would try? I mean, Trump, his own kids, if they tried that, he'd disown them.
Yeah.
So he's terrified. And then Jared fucked a lot of shit up, a lot. Remember the Comey stuff, all of it.
Yep.
He fucked up everything. He fucked up the pandemic response. He did so much horrible, horrible stuff, and yet blamed Trump for it, or walked away from it, said, I didn't have anything, and never took the fall. And Trump will never talk about him. I don't think. I remember Gary Cohen on the tarmac on the Shit on All That's Holy tour, where on the way, that first sort of trip overseas, and on the way back, remember the news was coming out about Junior having the meeting with Veselnitskaya, and they were cooking up, okay, say it's about adoptions on the plane, and Donald was in there, and it was all on the tarmac during one of those legs where you still had Reince Priebus running around, another pecker somehow becoming a human being. They asked about Jared for some reason, the press, and Gary Cohen was like, we're not talking about Jared. Okay. We're not talking about him. Don't ask about him.
Interesting.
And right at that moment, I was like, why can't we talk about fucking Jared? Like, what the fuck, Gary Cohen? What is going on? Who is Jared Kushner? Why is everybody afraid of Jared Kushner? Why?
Good question. Because he's such a geek. He's a horrible speaker. I don't know. He wears his bar mitzvah suit still. I don't know.
Terrible.
I forgot about this. My column on him from, again, 2019 or whatever.
Yeah, the stink needs
Boy
to
Plunder.
stay.
Boy Plunder is good.
Plunder.
I have to resurrect that.
With the stench. And Brad, maybe you can keep your eye out. Jared and Vanke trying to get themselves into some kind of social circle again.
Oh, yeah.
Going to parties, making sure they call their publicists, making sure.
Kardashian. Do you take pictures with Kardashian?
I think we got to shame the people that are willing to associate with him. And just that, because all the blood in Gaza, that guy's thinking about building real estate. Like, there's enough of a stink. I don't think that they should be allowed back into the rarefied air
I agree.
that they want. So let's make sure we direct a bunch at them.
Yeah. If you want to know what they're doing, just follow Ivanka's Instagram page, because it's a wealth of information. It's a wealth of information. All right. Okay. We have to do announcements.
Yep. This is when we do announcements. So if you have anything that you want to let people know that's coming up, anything you're involved in, anything you want to promote, this is the moment, Brad.
Okay. Well, ask everybody that's watching, follow me on Twitter at BadBradRSR. Check out my show, The Bad Brad Berkwitt Show. Just go to YouTube, type it in. Have some amazing guests on. Like I said, Stephanie was on.
Yeah.
They're going to be coming on soon as well. And we're going to keep plugging out there. That's pretty much my only two platforms. I don't do Facebook anymore. I left that a couple of years back. And, I tell all your viewers, we got to fight. We got to fight until November. Have to. If you have to tap out for a little bit and, for mental health, I understand it. But we have got to fight. Please don't just think about the presidential election, local, state, and federal elections, because we got horrible people. Like, I live in Indiana, home of Mike Penis. I said Mike Penis, not Pence, because he's a dick. We need to get rid of as many as these Republicans as we can in power. And when Trump is talking about pushing back abortion to the states, you're going to want to vote in these elections, because if the states are controlling stuff, you're going to want to have people in there to have your back. It's disgusting, and you alluded to this earlier, Stephanie, about taking women's rights away. But they're so fucking arrogant that they keep losing these what do you call them? Not votes, referendums or whatever it is, when they go and vote and say we don't want it to be this in very red states, but they don't care. The Marjorie, as I call her, Marjorie Trailer Park Green, they don't care. Lauren Hobart, they don't care. They don't care. So please, if you follow me, I know you guys love the MMF videos, but listen to the messages. Please get out there and vote. Please take people with you to vote. Please stay up on what's going on. I know it's a lot going on. There's more than just his trials. And here's my thing: if he walks on everything, only thing we have left to do is to vote to make sure that motherfucker, as I say, I'm going to say it here for your viewers, as I say, double fuck, your defended fuck, that motherfuck, Donald fucking Trump. Because all we have really as Americans is to vote for President Biden and make sure he never sees the White House again. So don't wait on these court cases, because if they don't happen the way you think they're going to happen, you have to vote. So that's my message.
Thank you, Brad.
Amen. Amen. Well said. Well said, sir.
Everyone follow Brad.
Yeah. Follow Brad.
All right. Greg, do you have any announcements?
I had Ethan Behrman, our friend, on my podcast today,
Yeah.
which is great. Great. Always a pleasure
always
to talk
great.
to him. So take a listen to that. We cover all kinds of stuff in that it's, in the weeds even a little bit, but fun. Always fun to talk to him. So I had him on, and that's it. That's all I got in terms of announcements. You?
I have an announcement. This is big news here in the North Country. I can spin on ice skates. I have learned how to spin.
Oh,
But have you learned how to stop?
I just go until it stops. I asked my coach, I'm like, how do I come out of the spin? He's like, oh, you spin. So good. And he's like, just don't fall. Just let it stop. You're not ready to come out of the spin. And I'm like, okay. And he's like an Olympian. So he knows. And I also learned there's nothing you can do. In dance, we can keep turning our head. You turn your head, you pick a point, right? And so you don't get dizzy. In ice skating, you just have to spin so much that your brain gets smushed so much that it just doesn't bother you anymore. That's literally the coaching. But you just got to keep doing it until your brain is used to it. So it is very dizzying, but I'll try to get video. I have to have.
I was going to say video or it didn't happen.
I try to get video.
This is a video show.
I really, really spin. It's really great.
This is not an audio podcast. This is a video thing.
I understand. That's it. That's my big announcement. It's a big.
I'm excited for this.
Thank you.
For this. Okay.
All right. I'll try to get video.
And then I guess no after. We're not doing after hours, right?
No after hours. I got a whole carload of people showing. I got to go make dinner now, late night dinner for them because they're arriving. Okay. All right. 8 minutes left on the clock. Help is on the way.
Help is on the way.
We're talking about Ukraine aid. Brad, let's start with Brad. Brad, what do you think? We finally got it through.
We finally got it through.
I love your T-shirt. Let's get into it.
Thank you. We marched. You see, I'm wearing my vote vet hat.
Yeah.
We went in October when we thought the government was going to shut down. They flew me in and a lot of other veterans from around the United States. Wonderful. And we marched up to the Capitol. They didn't shut the government down, but we marched also for funding in Ukraine. But I want to ask you something, both of you.
Yeah.
So Johnson came around. Son is very, very fishy with all of this shit. Johnson came around. Trump hasn't completely bashed him. Marjorie Trailer Park Green wants to throw him out, and the MAGA wing wants to, take a vote. Venmo, as Lev Parnas calls him, Captain Venmo, Matt Gaetz, and all these people want to, they haven't pulled the trigger yet to take the vote. Why do you think all of a sudden he came around on Ukraine?
That's a good question.
It's a good question.
Very good question.
I know what the reporting is. Did you know about the reporting on it? I don't know if it's reporting that just is garbage and I don't think it's garbage reporters. I just don't know if they're fed something. They're being fed a story. So the reporting I saw on it that seemed to have sort of the most sort of people confirming it was that a evangelical pastor from Ukraine came as part of a lobby, because folks were making the point that we're trying to help get this through of like the reason Israel gets everything they want is they have a very powerful lobby that lobbies, and you have to lobby these politicians or they'll just grab onto whatever their talking points in. I think Mike Johnson is completely compromised by the Kremlin. So it's strange, but so maybe there was something fishy in the folks that showed up and what they had to show him, because Ukrainians are pretty good at getting stuff out of the Kremlin that they need. But the reporting was that an evangelical pastor came who had lost his family, and came and got one-on-one with Mike Johnson and really talked to him for quite a bit of time about what the people there were facing, that they were Christians, that they were being slaughtered. And it was that playing that Christianity card for him. And I think also this is what it's going to look like if Ukraine falls. And these are the stories that are going to come out. And it's on you. The whole world, all of Europe and the rest of the world understands. You know, you might have people here who don't get it. But I think enough people do. And certainly they do in Europe, that it's on you. It's not on anyone else. It's 100% on you. So if that reporting is accurate, he had a literal come to Jesus of like, holy shit. I think very, very much I would put in terms of, oh my God, I can't have this. I can't have this on me. However, the delay was so long. There was so much damage. So it could have been whatever his deal was with Putin and the Kremlin was just sort of, I can delay it this long, and they just, I can go as far as I can and as long as I can, and inflict as much damage as I can for you. And that I don't think it's too little too late. It's a lot. And I think Ukraine will be able to use it and come back with this aid. I think they'll have a lot of help, which will be great. But maybe he did the job that he was supposed to do.
Nothing would surprise me.
People are saying in the comments that he got a really good intelligence briefing, which I'm sure is true and happened. Maybe the intelligence briefing is them being like, the Democrats also have the dirt on you that the MAGA have.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
That's what Debbie said.
Whatever it is that you did.
Yeah.
Because you did something.
Whatever that closet is, we got it too.
Whatever it is, we know what it is too. So just do the right fucking thing now, or we're going to release
That's funny because Debbie said it to me over dinner tonight. She said, it's possible that they got something on him because the name Hakeem Jeffries came up, and maybe Hakeem said, hey, I got this. You may want to try. May want to vote for this finally.
Maybe.
Never know.
We should say one thing here quickly, which is that, as you alluded to, LB, it took many months for this to happen. Yeah. In the many months, there's been untold destruction of Ukraine. There's been thousands and thousands of Ukrainians killed. There's been war crimes galore, committed in Ukraine, as our friend Zarina has documented in the East there on the front lines. I'm not saying that this would have been prevented, but it certainly would have, changed the tide. So all of those deaths are on the head of Mike Johnson. They're on the head of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't think she cares. I don't think her Cro-Magnon brain can process it. They're on the head of Matt Gaetz.
Yeah.
Matt Gaetz is smart enough to know, and he's responsible. He has blood on his hands.
Yeah.
Lots of Ukrainians are dead because of him.
Yeah.
Including young ones that he likes probably and would like in person if he met. So fuck you. I'm gonna do like you, Brad.
There you go.
Fuck you, Matt Gaetz. You fucking fuck. Okay, that's it. I think it's important to call these people out.
Yeah.
Because they'll be like, we're happy that we passed the bill. No, you're not.
No.
You did Putin's bidding. You bowed. You got on your fucking knees to this.
That's right.
And Zarina was tweeting something earlier in the week. She went to some conference in Italy where the new scuttlebutt is to say that Putin's election is illegitimate and that there's lots of evidence to suggest that the election results are not legitimate. And he is no longer the legitimate leader of that country. And I think
that would be wonderful. I want to also bring this in. Bill Browder got some language in there and some policy in there to where the seized oligarch funds for the sanctioned oligarchs and companies, those seized funds where America's seizing that Merrick Garland, is on that whole thing. It's going to rebuild Ukraine. So if I'm one of the oligarch cronies who's just a gangster and ended up, becoming a gajillionaire because I'm a buddy of Putin's or a buddy of Mogilevich or somebody that got me in a position and da-da-da-da-da. And now this motherfucker, Putin, has waged this war for which I get, not only did all my shit get seized, and they have plenty of money elsewhere and hidden around, but it's difficult for them. But now what is being taken is going to actually rebuild Ukraine because he can't stop waging this war. I think time is ticking down for him. I really do. They're going to take him out. They can't, their economy really is taking a hit now. They're gonna have a big dive in their stock markets and everything. It's all going to be very, very bad. And those very powerful men that Putin empowered and also who empowered him they're going to end this. This is unsustainable for them. They want their money. They commit all these horrible things to have all that money, and now they don't get to keep it.
I hope so. I hope so.
So.
Moscow Never Sleeps told me that even people in Moscow that he knows that are like lawyers and smart people really do buy all the Putin disinformation stuff.
Oh, I mean, listen,
they really do think
look
that
at the
Ukraine is
veterans
not
here. Propaganda is powerful. It's very, very powerful.
Yeah.
And there is a point where the spell breaks. There is. And it's when you personally are sitting there and all you've got is maybe a gravel lot and a Folgers can to take a shit in. And that's all you've got in the world. At that point, maybe the fog lifts. Maybe not. But
we shall see.
We'll see.
We shall see.
Maybe they don't have a pot to piss in, and maybe that's what does it. I don't know.
They have a vodka bottle to piss in.
We had a lot of swearing. I knew we would because Brad was coming on. I love it so much. Brad, it was just really, really, really a pleasure having you and introducing you to our audience. I'm sure so many people were already aware of you. But everyone give him a follow. This is a good human being. And I appreciate how you've been there for me. We've just gotten to know each other fairly recently, but you're a man of integrity and you show up for people. And I appreciate that. And I know our mutual friends appreciate that about you as well. So
thank you. I appreciate the invite. You ever need something my way, let me know.
We'll let you know.
All right. So, again, I echo what Stephanie said, Brad. Great to have you on. This was I knew this was going to be a fun one. And sometimes people come on and I have to watch my mouth, and I like when I don't have to watch my mouth. It's more fun.
Not with me.
So and I want to thank obviously everybody for watching. I want to thank my wife, Stephanie St. John, for doing the vocals in our little media, and thank Chunk again for creating the media around it. And I want to thank everybody for watching and liking and subscribing and all the things that we're supposed to say as YouTube hosts that we often don't. We appreciate all of you. And when we leave the show, Brad, we have a little thing that we like to say. And what we like to say is, what is it, LB?
We're going to get through this.